Father Christopher Plant. I'm from St. Bartholomew. I'm the pastor, and we're very, very happy to do this next Conversing Clergy. I know it's been several months since I've had the last Conversing Clergy, and you might have noticed that there's a bit of a change. Number one, I decided to do a green screen, so just so you know, this thing is not real, okay? The other thing is that we have a change of an associate. So Father Nicholas was here, but he was transferred back in February, so he's the pastor now of St. Francis Cabrini. So he has moved on up to be a pastor, so we're very proud of him. The Archdiocese, the Cardinal, was very generous in sending us a new associate, a new priest just like Father Nicholas, but nevertheless, very much like Father Nicholas, very talented. And so I want to introduce to you I was going to say Father Nicholas again, but Father Ricardo Arriola, and you have to say it just like that when you speak to him.
You have to roll the R's.
That's right. You got to roll the R's. Or you can call him Father Rick.
Yes, I go either way. Yes. Father Rick is fine.
Yeah, awesome. And so today what we want to do is we just want to get to know Father Ricardo today. So you want to just go ahead and share your story?
Sure.
How did your journey towards the priesthood begin?
Wow. They say that a priest is not born, but is made. Obviously, at that mass, that beautiful mass of ordination, that's when the priest is made. Mm-hmm. But obviously, there are many things, that lead to that moment. Right. I remember, I probably was 8 or 9 years old when I first, told my parents, I think I want to be a priest. I grew up in a very Catholic environment, but later, as I was growing up, my parents never pushed that on me. We had, some priest friends that would go and, eat supper or lunch at home. One of my aunts, she was a Salesian nun. And I was always surrounded by religious vocations. But, seeing my siblings, growing up, getting married, I thought that was also for me.
Sure.
It was not until I actually moved to America, to the U.S., back in 2007, that I began to ask myself, the important questions about life. Why am I here? Why did God create me? What is all this about? So a lot of mysteries. Which, life will always be a mystery, but there are certain mysteries that the Lord was inviting me to go deeper.
Sure.
And to understand, who I am in relation to my baptismal dignity. Mm-hmm. And so I moved to the States pursuing professional goals. I studied graphic design with an orientation in animation. Mm-hmm. So I knew that my life was going to be outside of Guadalajara, where I'm from.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Even though I must say that in Mexico, the animation industry is starting to grow over there in that city. But I knew that I wanted to pursue, bigger goals like working for Pixar or Disney. Mm-hmm. And so that made me have the goal to move to America. But it was so difficult to find a job in that field. Mm-hmm. And so I saw the opportunity, and the way that it was presented to me was kind of interesting. I was driving, and actually I was not driving. It was a bus. I was taking the bus, and I saw this big billboard with 3 questions. Mm-hmm. The first question was, do you speak English? And I said to myself, yes. Second question was, do you have a bachelor's degree? I'm like, yes, I do. And the third question is, do you want to work in the U.S.? So, and there was a number right there. And I'm like, wow, I can't believe that my dream job is going to, be given to me so easily.
Right.
So I called, to find out what it was about. And it was to become a bilingual teacher for Texas schools. Mm. And so when I saw that, right away, I turned it down and I said, okay, no, I'm not going to move away from my goal, right? Mm-hmm. And so I said, I'm just going to tell my dad about it. And he's very quick to say, just forget about that. Mm-hmm. But to my surprise, he said, well, I think it sounds like a good opportunity for you. What do you think? And I said, really, you think so? He's like, yeah, I mean, you can go to the U.S., and then get, your permanent residence, and then maybe eventually, apply to these companies. And I said, well, actually, that sounds kind of makes sense. So I did that for 9 months. I became a certified teacher. I studied for that, and then to my surprise, I ended up loving teaching. I was hired by A-Leaf ISD, and then during those 5 years, many things happened in my life. To begin with, I think the Lord was calling me to a very, I would say, radical conversion to understand the importance of pursuing holiness in my life. I think that was kind of like the initial state, the call to holiness. And then after that, I was very, I was finding myself going to bed pretty late, studying or reading Aquinas or Confessions of St. Augustine.
Yeah, sure. Light reading.
Yeah.
Yeah, light reading.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like reading Spider-Man comic books.
Somebody told me,
sure.
why don't you start with Aquinas? I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, what am I reading?
Yeah, sure.
You know how it is? Like there are some questions.
Yeah.
And then there are replies to those questions.
Right.
And then, but there are some questions that actually are contrary to the faith, but he's replying to those.
Right.
Well, I was like finding all these answers in the wrong sections, and I'm like, Catholics don't believe that.
Right.
And I didn't know how to read the Summa.
Yeah, and then you mix into it also that some of those questions were very much of the school of Aristotle and Averroes, some of the Muslim philosophers, Moses Maimonides, the Jewish philosophers. So some of the questions or the terminology came right from that environment.
Right.
So you really jumped into the deep end.
Yeah, and it was one of those things, I would have thought that it was going to turn me off, by reading all these words. I did not have an idea, but on the contrary, it was awakening in me a sense of like, I need to find out, what that means.
Sure.
So in a period of maybe a year of being, immersed into this and service with other young adult groups across the archdiocese, there was one particular summer that I didn't go back to see my parents, and I said to myself, I think I need a retreat. So I went to the Life Awareness Retreat.
Yes, and I went to that as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, way back. I would
okay.
say about 3 or 4 years before I entered the seminary. So
it was a great retreat, but I really didn't have an idea that it was a discernment retreat. I mean, I did.
Really? What did you think it was?
I thought it was just free food. Time to chill with the Lord, and that's it.
Yeah.
Because it was for men and women.
Yeah.
And so the word discernment was there, but English is my second language, and I really never associated the word discernment with a religious vocation. I said, yes, I want to discern, what the Lord wants for me. And so to my surprise, it was to pursue a religious vocation, and it felt like God said, okay, I want you to be quiet and just listen to these talks and just talk among, the other young adults to see where they're at.
So before that time, you weren't discerning the priesthood.
I was not.
Wow.
I was not.
So that was it. That's when it began.
That's when it began, and I remember I felt something, in my heart that the Lord was calling me for something, and I remember I called my mother and I said, "Hey, Mom, I went to this retreat, and I don't know if it's what I'm thinking, but I think the Lord wants me to discern a religious vocation." So I said, "But don't tell my dad, because my dad is going to tell my aunt." Which it was a Salesian nun. She passed away, and I knew that she was going to call me and push me. I didn't want that, right. So I just told my mom, just pray for me. And so she prayed for about a year, and then after a year, again, I was going to perpetual adoration at St. John Vianney. That's my home parish, and I had a mystical experience there actually in that chapel. And it just affirmed what I was thinking maybe about a year and a half before that, and it just took a lot of courage. And I talked to the vocation director, and many things happen around, but this would be a very long video if I continue giving you all the details. But that was
this
pretty
is
much
something.
it.
Yeah, this is something that we can definitely go more into. And when you entered the seminary, were you pretty sure that you were called to be a priest? Because some guys, we enter the seminary and we know that is a place of discernment as well.
Right.
So it's not like I go in the seminary and then it's an automatic train all the way to ordination. It's a discernment process. So going into the seminary, it's almost like dating the Catholic Church, right? So just like in a dating relationship, both the boyfriend and the girlfriend, they're thinking, do I want to continue with this guy? Do I want to continue with this girl? But they both have a say-so. So it's the same thing in the seminary. They're dating. We're dating the Catholic Church in the seminary, studying theology, but also discerning. Is this something that I want to do? And then also the Catholic Church is discerning. Is this someone that's called to the priesthood? And and I said, is this something that I want to do? Of course, it's a deeper question, right? Is this what the Lord is calling me to do? And of course, if you don't want to do it, well, there's a chances are you're not called to it, right?
Exactly.
Or if you don't want to do it and you are called to it, well, but you're saying I don't want to do this. Well, then that means that you would really need to kind of step out of the seminary and then wrestle with that. Would you say that during your discernment, was there a time when you were thinking, I don't, let's say afterlife awareness, you go in the seminary, were there some times when you're thinking, I don't know if this is something I am called to, or was it pretty smooth for you?
No, actually going to the seminary, or actually calling for the first time the vocation director, it was a bumpy road. I think it took about 2 years and a half for me to actually do that very big step. Many things happened to me. My ex-boss from Guadalajara, he emailed me and he said, hey, there is this project of a movie that is going to be with Mexican artists, and will be the first one, but the budget is coming from the U.S. and Canada, and I want you to be part of it. That was when I was actively discerning.
Wow!
Right, that opportunity came to me,
and you had been looking for that for a while.
I mean, that was my dream job.
Yeah, here it is.
And here it is. It was presented to me. And I believe that movie was the Book of Life. I don't know if you saw it.
Yeah.
So I was gonna
Book of Life,
I was gonna participate in that movie. And but anyway, so I mean, little things presented to me. Also in my job as a teacher, the position of ESL specialist, was presented. So I mean, I saw a career there also in the education field, and all of this happened at once. And again, I go back to that adoration chapel. And I'm like, okay, Lord, what exactly do you want me to do? And, it deep inside me, this is not the mystical experience I told you about, but this was another occasion that I felt like the Lord said, whatever you choose, I will bless you. You just have to be holy and pursue holiness.
Yeah.
And it was that moment when I also chose, with conviction, to actively discern the priesthood. I think there's a moment in this man that is called to the priesthood or called to discern. You have to choose.
Sure.
I think it's when both the human will and the divine will meet, right? When you make a commitment and you choose, and so I think that's pretty much what happened to me.
Yeah, and I think that's really important for those who are listening who may be discerning a vocation. I remember when I was discerning for quite a while. I think I discerned for about 4 years after I said that I was going to think about it, and I remember when I decided to go ahead and enter. This is what happens, This is what happens when a priest is in the middle of talking.
I have an emergency call
and
right
his
now.
Cell phone. Oh, okay. Well, now he's going
to go to the hospital.
Now you're going to make me feel guilty. Yeah, is that real? Is that true? You got to go to the hospital?
No, it's an alarm to go to a meeting.
Well, now I know I got to watch out for this guy. So anyway, when you enter the seminary, or when I was deciding to go into the seminary. I made that decision. I was applying, and I remember I went back to my home parish for something. I forgot what it was. And my home parish is St. Lawrence in Sugar Land, and Father Drew Wood, who's still the pastor, he was pastor back then. And I remember he said to me, Chris, there are some guys that said they're thinking about it, they're discerning, but they never make a decision. But you are actually making a decision. You're taking that next step. And he said that was something that really inspired him, and he was thankful for that. So yeah, at some point you do have to make a decision. Otherwise, you can get stuck in discernment. But I think for me, what helped me to finally make that decision was I asked the question, why am I not entering?
Right.
What's keeping me from entering? And I realized it was fear. And fear is not a reason to make a decision. Fear should not be the motivation to not act or to act. It really needs to be confidence and trust in the Lord. And of course, part of that is the developing conviction and relationship with Jesus. So yeah, at any rate, so thank you so much for sharing your story. And maybe if you can just share for a little bit, because right now, this is what, your third month of the priesthood?
That's right. September 1st was my 3-month anniversary.
Yeah, September 1st, and his 3-month, and I think you went out for a lunch or dinner, didn't you, to celebrate that? Or, yeah. So every month he celebrates, so he's going to be doing that. For the next
we
10
Catholics,
years.
we find reasons to celebrate.
You got a party.
We have our own calendar. Every day there's a feast.
Yeah, so. In fact, maybe we'll make it like Mardi Gras. So once a month we'll have the beads and the king cake and the music, everything for you. What do you think? I think that would be good.
Yeah.
That's the right answer. That's the right answer. Yeah. So how has it been? The first three months. I guess we can ask about expectations. I think that's one of the most interesting questions to ask. So is the priesthood what you expected before you were ordained?
That's a tricky question. Part of your formation, right? It's you spend a year in the parish, and then you become a deacon, and then you're also serving a parish. So you have a certain idea of how the priestly ministry is going to look like, but to actually do it, it's different, right? Definitely, I see that my day just flies by.
Sure.
It just goes so fast, and I think the importance of prayer comes, right?
Absolutely.
How those moments, of the divine office just kind of like calms you down. It's like, okay, you're running, just stay with the Lord for a little bit. I want to comfort you. I want to remind you, why are you doing this?
Sure.
Right? So prayer allows for that to happen. But definitely, I think I'm living a very fast-paced life. I didn't think that I was going to experience this. And so I think that's one point of of a difference that I'm now finding. Yeah. It's
a heck of a re-entry. It's a heck of an entry process. Sure. I remember thinking the exact same thing when I entered in, that it is such a busy, high impact life, is what I would say, is what I would call it. Of course, I'm a football player at heart. I used to play contact football, and I was aspiring to be in the NFL and all that, but. I never really got there, and I'm not going to lie and say, it was just because of that injury that I had. Otherwise, I would have been, kind of like one of those guys that celebrates making that touchdown at the state championship, and he, like Napoleon Dynamite, and he just keeps living it over and over again. I'm not going to be like that, not today. But I can tell you that it was high impact. A lot of activity, and people may ask, well, Father, what do you do between those Sundays, right? Because from the perspective of a parishioner, their experience of the Catholic Church is they go to Sunday Mass. The vast majority, that is their experience, or a funeral or a marriage, or whatever. But what do you do between, right? So we're looking at anointing of the sick. That's one of the big ones. That's especially in a big parish like ours, you got more sick people, and you got a bigger hospital and all that. The other thing is visiting with families. I know we go to we do house blessings, and we visit with families just to spend time with them, and that's the other thing. There's a lot of volunteer ministries as well. And I can tell you, as pastor, I have to be at my pastoral council meeting, my finance council meeting, and also Hispanic Ministry Committee meeting. And then we have our daily masses. So we have our morning mass, we have our evening mass, we have our nursing home masses. And then, as a pastor, I have to supervise a staff of 30 plus more than 30. I can't even keep track of how many staff we have. So, keeping track and supervising all of that. And then there's a lot more going on. And that's definitely not a complaint, by the way. Because I got to tell you, I've not had a single boring day since I was ordained. Boredom is not part of the vocation of the priesthood.
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. So I really have to say that the most important thing that we do as priests is prayer, especially the holy hour. And one thing that Father Ricardo and I do is we pray the office together, which is what you were talking about, and we pray morning prayer together. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, at least in the mornings, and we have the Blessed Sacrament. We go to adoration. I would say that's the most important thing that a priest does is continue that friendship, that relationship with Jesus, because Jesus wants us. He calls us into a special friendship with Him as priests, and then He sends us out to share that friendship with others all around us. So, well, I'm glad you're having a good experience of the priesthood, and I'm so happy that you're here with us.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to be at St. Bartholomew. Not just a pleasure, but I see it as a blessing for sure. I'm still, unfolding all these amazing blessings. So, thank you, Father.
Right. Awesome. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this latest installment of Conversing Clergy. Let us know what topics you would like us to discuss. Put it in the comments in this YouTube video, or you can put it on our Facebook page, and we can look into some topics that we can talk about. And we also have a seminarian coming in. His name is Christopher Meyer. He'll be on our pastoral year, so he'll be with us as well, and we'll invite him in to be part of our Conversing Clergy conversations. Again, thank you so much for stopping by. Check out the website for St. Bartholomew, st-bart.org. Also, you can friend me to be my fan on my fan page, frplant.com, fatherplant.com, and you can make sure that you'll get notifications from us when something new comes on. Maybe Father Ricardo can have a fan page, because he has at least one fan, and I would be his one fan.
All right, cheers, Father.
All right.
Thank you very much.
God's blessings to you. Till next time.